Hello. If our guest today sat down and wrote out an outline of his own life, it would probably be packed with as much adventure and action and sheer excitement as the novels he actually does write. His name is John Gordon Davis.
What I always try to do is write a real situation and place a real love story upon that situation so that the reader feels that he is in the situation that I'm writing about, that he feels love when it is love that is being written about, that he feels fear when fear comes into it, that he laughs with the characters, that he's in danger, the reader feels in danger when danger is on the horizon to the characters. Now, Hong Kong is the essence, but it is also the vehicle. I've taken I gave very careful thought to choosing the real, difficult, dangerous, glamorous, exotic aspect of Hong Kong and placing upon that and weaving into it my characters.
You had, it seems to me from that novel, a love-hate relationship with Hong Kong. You loved part of the physical facts of the city, but you hated the actual corruption of the city.
The corruption of it is a matter apart. What I find so intriguing about Hong Kong is that it is an animal all of itself. It's a case of capitalism being rampantly allowed to coexist and have a life of symbiosis with the purism of communism, because the communists want us out there to do their dirty work for them. And this is a fascinating situation because everybody is in Hong Kong for what they can get out of it. Our massive refugee influx is an influx of people who want to make money or want to be free, and they are there for themselves. And Hong Kong feels like this, it goes on like this, it is a rat race. And when nature strikes, or when crisis strikes, like an economic crisis, it is so in character with the whole place. It is everybody for himself, and even the place is for itself.
I think we should point out you were Crown Counsel in Hong Kong.
Correct.
What does Crown Counsel really mean?
It means that I'm a barrister attached to the legal department prosecuting cases for the Crown in the Supreme Court.
Were you involved in corruption? I don't mean were you yourself corrupt, but did you have knowledge of corruption and did you sidestep, slide around it?
I was never compromised or embarrassed in any way by the notion of corruption. I had exposure to it in the same way as everybody has exposure to corruption. There is corruption in Hong Kong. It's a way of life.
You see, in this country, I think corruption has just become part and parcel of our headlines, and we're still shocked by it, aren't we? You say you were exposed to it, but you were not corrupted by corruption. Doesn't exposure mean that you catch the disease?
Not at all. I knew it was going on all about me. We flattered ourselves that the judiciary and the legal department were the two departments who never, ever had an accusation made against them.
That could be corruption in itself, couldn't it?
In what way? You mean
if no accusations are made, nobody's talking?
Oh, but...
Your wife told you to smile. Now you're smiling.
I don't think that corruption need compromise anybody in Hong Kong, that's to say, in a governmental position who doesn't want to be compromised. But the fact of the matter is that the rest of Hong Kong, which is a money-making machine and a rat race, gets along with the with everybody greasing the wheels, and it's a mentality. People expect to have to pay a certain amount of squeeze or oil money in order to make the machine work that much smoother.
Now, in the novel, in your latest novel, The Years of the Hungry Tiger, you use this climate of corruption. You use the actual physical climate of the typhoons, the heavy rains, the actual atmosphere of the city. When I said it was the essence of the novel, how do you do this? Do you make notes? Do you use a tape recorder? Do you write at the end of each day? You were working as a barrister. How did you do it?
I first of all experienced all those things that I wrote about, namely the typhoons and the rains and the crises, the political crises. I reinforced my experience of them by a great deal of research and a great deal of thinking, and my first drafts, my first notes of the book are very, very much scratchy daubs on the wall. And it's only after I've got into the subject that I begin to know the problems that I'm up against, because you only solve problems by encountering them, that you then go back and go deeper and begin to feel and to investigate the right things. To investigate a grand canvas like Hong Kong in a vacuum doesn't get you a great deal of depth of feeling. It's when you channel and chisel this down to the problems that you're trying to write about that you begin to expand at the right level. And it's at that point that your research widens, your feelings widen, your empathy widens.
Would you say that's a definition of being a novelist?
It's my definition of being a novelist. I know of no other way. I think a novelist's job, a serious novelist's job, is not dissimilar really to a serious actor's job. A serious actor has got to make his audience think and feel and love and laugh and hate and feel fear and excitement and pleasure. And that is what the writer has to try and do. He's got to make the reader smell, he's got to make the reader hear, he's got to make the reader feel heat, the rain, he's got to make the reader feel danger, excitement. And he can do this with words, and it's much more difficult than being, well, perhaps I shouldn't say that, but I think it's more difficult than being an actor, because you've got to work with words, and you've got to work with punctuation, you've got to work within grammatical rules. And I think a novelist is entitled to break those rules. He can string long sentences together and long lines of adjectives, provided the effect is, if he wants noise, for example, he gets that effect. If he wants love, he gets the effect of love.
Wouldn't you be happier making
something
films?
like a poet. I get something like a poet.
Wouldn't you be happier making films then?
No, because I wouldn't be the vehicle then, you see. I'd be telling actors what to do. I should imagine that to write a movie script where I say to a good actor, you go on the stage now, and all you've got to say to the girl is, I love you. And a good actor is going to go on and do all your work for you, because he, with his expertise, is going to put that into his eyes, his face, his breath, his movements. I, as the novelist, have got to do a hell of a lot more than that. I've got to describe and make the reader feel all those things that the actor makes him see and feel.
Can I leave you as a novelist for a moment and ask you a series of on-earth questions, which are, why on earth, what on earth, who on earth, why on earth were you a deep-sea diver? What on earth made you become somebody who was on a whaling ship, a seaman who sailed around the world? Who on earth becomes a miner when they're also a barrister? You're a fruit picker. You've just done so many things in your life. How, why, and what on earth were you doing them for?
I was in search of adventure and in search of experience and in search of feeling. I was also taking life very seriously in a way when I was doing those things. I went off to the Antarctic because I wanted to be a seaman and to see the Antarctic and to see whales and to be with a situation of tough men, etc. That was my desire for adventure coming out. But on the other hand, I was also taking life seriously, because I said, I only live once, and I'm only going to do these things if I really go out and sweat for them. And they're going to stand me in good stead, because lurking at the back of my mind, although at the stage I was a law student and taking law very seriously, I also felt that I wanted to be able to write about them. Although I didn't think as far as novels, I just wanted to have the experience to write about. It's a compulsion to write, you know. It's something like a singer must sing. And this is what I was after. So although I was definitely enjoying myself, I was also being serious about it.
But you went out and you really courted danger. You looked for danger.
Yes, and when it came, I was terrified.
What was the most dangerous moment or moments of that time?
Actually, my life hasn't really been punctuated with much danger, but from time to time I have been in hairy situations which have scared the pants off me. One was just last year when I was in the Zambezi Valley, and I got mixed up with a bunch of soldiers who were on a survival course. And they invited me to join this course, and one of the things I had to do, I had to be dumped on this desert island and survive off whatever I could find there. And this bunch of 20-year-old soldiers took it into their heads to swim across the Zambezi to another island where there were waterbuck, and we were going to try and capture these waterbuck to eat them, because we were given no food. You see, we were given a knife each, and a pair of shoes and a pair of shorts. And we had to swim across this big expansive river, and we knew there were crocodiles in there. And I was 36, didn't want to do it because I was frightened. I knew that these guys were younger, stronger, fitter than I, and they would swim it, and they'd leave me behind. And the crocodile would be intimidated by the big thrash of these fellows going over, and it would then see me bringing up the rear, and I would be the guy it would go for, you see. So I tried to chicken out of this, but they all persuaded me that they would stick with me. And of course, we got halfway across this thing. I was exhausted. It was a big, expansive water. It was about 400 yards. And I'm not a very strong swimmer, and of course, each man for himself, I got left behind. And I was just the fella that I knew I was going to get myself into. The crocodile knew that I was the fella coming over last. And for, I suppose, a good half an hour, while I wrestled that last 200 yards, I was absolutely terrified. But after about 10 minutes of being frightened, I did achieve a measure of detachment and say to myself, well, if I'm going to be eaten by a crocodile, it's not going to make it any more pleasant if I'm frightened, so just try and keep calm, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And if he's going to take you, he's going to take you. And when I eventually crawled out the other side, I didn't have any sense of achievement that I'd managed to keep calm, but now I can say to myself, well, at least I didn't sort of scream. I feel quite proud of the fact that I did manage to achieve a measure of control.
And the happy memory of one frustrated, non-achieved
Yeah,
crocodile still there.
The awful part about that was that we got to the island, there were no water buck, they'd swum onto the other one, and we all had to swim back over the same expanse of water, and that was the really bad part, knowing that the same thing was going to happen to me.